Hey everybody, welcome to Ask Susan, your transformational, motivational Monday moment. And thank you so much for all of you who've been asking me questions about creating a life you love and falling in love with your life. The theme this month, Susan Lazar Hart here, your congruency coach, creator of the Congruent Living Academy, and the Congruent Living Self-Assessment, an assessment in which I've created just for you, just for fun, to check in and see, so where am I in congruent and where am I out of congruency, out of harmony with the life that I'm asking to live? So let's dive right into this question because it might assist you in fulfilling your desire to create a life you love. Susan, whose lens are you living through? So it's a question I ask myself often. That's why I say Susan to Susan, whose lens are you living through? Because when we're not creating a life we love, when we're not in a joy-filled, yes, I'll have that moment, often we're looking at our life through someone else's lens. Or we're trying to live our life through someone else's lens. Now, when I say lens, it's what are you looking through? So there's so many times when we don't realize how influenced we are when we go to reach for something or create something, whether it's a life, a living, money flows, a relationship. And we tend to be heavily influenced by the belief systems we were brought up with, by the perspective of others, parents, partners, friends, society, media, for sure. Now, these external influences shape our beliefs. And again, we've been having these influences since we chose to come into this body in this lifetime on this planet and many other lifetimes as well. And they ultimately influence our values, how we shape our world, what we strive for, what we reach for, our view of ourselves and our lives and what we're asking to create. So that's why I want you to really ask yourself this question. Whose lens am I creating my life through? Because it's really important to recognize these external lenses. Now, I often talk about tapping in, reaching for your North Star, listening to your guides. That's you. That's who you truly be. That's where there's no conflagration, there's no contraction. It's just like, yes, when you're in the flow, when you're tapping in. More often than not, we tap into someone else's lens, somebody else's perspective of who we should be, how we should be, and what we should be doing. So that's what I'm going to give you an exercise at the end of this and a journaling prompt. And I want to just dive in. And if you have some questions, if you're here now, pop in your questions. I see them in the feed. And if you're watching later, #replay and pop in your questions there, because it's really important to recognize that with compassion, that we are often taught to look at ourselves through someone else's lens. Through, as a little child, you look into your caretaker's eyes and to get that reflection back that you're everything's okay in the world. So let's talk about recognizing those external lenses. Have you ever felt like you're living your life for someone else's expectation? Or perhaps you're constantly comparing your life to what you see on social media, what somebody else is doing. These are signs you might be looking at your life through someone else's lens. And the thing is, you're imposing that lens on you by not being willing to just be still, take some quiet moments with yourself and ask, what would I love? Am I creating a life that I love? When you're saying, but she does that, she does that, they do that. It seems so easy for them. Well, that's their life. So take off what they call the rose-colored glasses and ask yourself, is what they're creating and how they're creating relevant to what I desire for me? Because each of us creates in a way that matches the energy. We always say what you put your attention on grows. So are you putting your attention on other people's lenses, other people's way of creating, or are you willing to put your attention on you? For example, imagine you're pursuing a career path because it's what somebody else, your parents, your partner want for you, not because it's your passion. It doesn't light you up. Or maybe you're trying to achieve a certain lifestyle. because it's what you see influencers showing, or you've seen this on TikTok or Instagram or whatever that is. These external influences lead us away from our true desires and what we truly value in ourselves. So my first question would be, what is it that you value in you? That no matter what it looks like, no matter what it takes, you know you can come back to that. Is it joy? Is it compassion? Is it a desire? Is it curiosity? What is that for you? Take a moment now and just ask yourself, what is it? What is that for me? That's where you know that you can then ask the question is, are the choices, the lenses I'm looking through, are they matching that reality that I have for me? This is all about shifting perspective. You see, once you start asking these questions, you can identify the influences in your life, and you can start to understand how they impact your view of your own life. So important. And I can't recommend enough. Shut off all the noise and be with these questions. Because there's so many times where clients come to me saying, I just don't, it's just not happening for me. So we have to ask that question, who are you creating this life for? Is it for you or for somebody else? Great question to ask. And please reach out to me with your answers. I want to see them in the Facebook here. Because it's only when you're willing to be present with these questions do you get the awareness. And you might have another question that will lead to another question. Say, hey, Susan, could you give me some help with this? I'm here for you. That's what I love. That's what my coaching's all about. That's what Congruent Living's all about. It's about being present with the questions we have in our lives. So everything flows, not through somebody else's lens, but through you. So let's talk about shifting perspectives. How do we shift from the external lens that we're using to our own perspective? It's about reclaiming your vision, again, sitting with you, yeah? And reclaiming your vision and defining truly what matters to you. It's about understanding your values, what turns you on, what lights you up, your targets, because they resonate with you, independent of other people's expectations. So take some time to reflect on what makes you happy and fulfilled. It sounds so easy. It's not, right? When I say it's not easy, it can be ease-filled when you're willing to gift yourself that time and be present. And now is the time, with things moving so quickly on the planet, with everything shifting and changing. Ask yourself, what are my core values? Am I living a life I love with that? Or am I looking at what I'm creating through somebody else's lens and then judging myself? What are your passions? What targets do you want to achieve for yourself? Not because someone else expects it, because it truly resonates with you. So let's say you've always felt pressured to have a high-powered career because it's what's expected in your family, but deep down you have a passion for art and creativity, and shifting to your own perspective might be exploring how you can incorporate more of that creativity in your life. Whether it's a career change, could be a side project, whatever that is for you. Are you gifting yourself what brings you joy? I'll give you a perfect example. I'm in Vermont today, and we're working on, Ricky and I are working on these gardens that bring us so much joy. And I'm looking at the plastic over the vegetable garden that I haven't even started yet. And I'm like, oh, and I could go down one path that says, this is so much work. I don't have the bandwidth. And I can buy the vegetables I want at the grocery store. But what I chose to do was sit with myself and say, okay, what's the value of a vegetable garden for you? Where does it match your energies? And so I say to myself, well, I really love getting up in the morning and picking lettuce from the garden and herbs and making a beautiful salad with what I have in my garden. And it feels so good. It's like a reciprocity. And I can tend to the garden and it tends to me. And I ask myself, would you love that? And I said, yes, I would love that. So what I did yesterday was I took half the tarp off the garden. We put a tarp on in the winter to keep the weeds down. And I planted what I knew we would eat this summer and what would bring me joy. It only took a couple of hours. And at the end of the day, it was like, yeah, And so what is it that you're holding back from creating because you've decided it's too much? My mom always used to say, oh, you do too much. Well, so how much do we bring those sayings that our parents said to us when we were younger into our lives now? And we fall into that, in that belief system, instead of saying, okay, what would I love? And if I chose this, what could that create? I love that. If you choose this, indulge. Now, you're living that life. I'm living this life with a garden, with a veggie garden. How does that feel? What would that create? And then I have the energy in so many different ways to go to that. What's my next best step? Go out and buy the plants. Go buy the seeds. What's my next best step? Put get the garden ready. What's my next best step? Plant this. What's my next best step? Water. It's done. And it felt so good. Because part of living a life you love, that honors you, is to giving yourself those good feelings at the end of the day with gratitude and appreciation. Because when you're aligned with your true self, what really brings you joy, you'll find that your choices bring you more satisfaction and happiness. And this is a powerful step towards falling in love with your life, which is our theme this month. So let's talk a little bit about external lenses. When we constantly seek validation from others or compare ourselves to unrealistic standards of others, we end up feeling inadequate and unfulfilled. Why? Because they're living their life, it's not our life. When you're in comparison, you've closed off the voice that guides you. You've closed off living in congruency. And this can lead to a life cycle of dissatisfaction where you're always chasing approval rather than finding joy in your own journey. So recognize those traps and remind yourself your worth is not determined by relying on other people's validation. Your journey is unique. Your journey is unique. You belong. You matter. You matter. And your perspective is valuable. By shifting away from external lenses, you free yourself from the need for constant validation and open up genuine self-love and acceptance. Now, I promised you a little exercise that we're going to be doing. So we're going to take a few moments, and I want you to do this each day and ask yourself, whose lens am I living through right now, and what do I truly want? This practice will help you become aware of external influences and refocus your attention on your own desires and values. So here we go. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Exhale through your mouth. Another deep breath, and ask yourself, whose lens am I living through right now? And if you recognize it's someone else's, gently shift your focus and ask, what do I truly want? What do I truly want? What would bring me joy? Now, write down your thoughts in a journal. Over time, this practice will help you align more closely with your own vision of a joy-filled life. Whose lens am I living through right now? Once you're bumping up against something and it doesn't work for you, ask that question. Whose lens am I living through right now? What would it take to change and shift this? Well, you'd have to know what you truly desire. What do I truly desire? Knowing all along that you matter and you belong. Shifting to your own perspective can have a profound impact on your life, I promise you. When you see your life through your own lens, you start to make choices that are true to you. And this alignment brings a sense of authenticity, fulfillment that's hard to achieve when you're living through someone else's expectations. Imagine the freedom and joy that comes from living a life on your own terms in what really matters in creating a life you love. So remember your exercise, and here's your journaling prompt. Reflect on whose lens you have been viewing your life through. Write about how these perspectives have influenced your decisions, your choices, your feelings. How do you feel about that? Now explore what it would look like to see your life through your own lens. What changes might you make? How would it feel to live more authentically you? Write about how these perspectives have influenced your decisions and feelings, and then explore what it would like to see your life through your own lens. What changes might you make? Again, how would it feel? How would that feel? Right? Like I knew how it would feel at the end of the day to have the garden in without that question. Oh, am I going to put a veggie garden in? Yes, no, yeah, no, 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 no. That's not me. That has nothing to do with me. That's this reality. Better make sure, better check, right? So in closing, remember that creating a joy-filled life starts with seeing your life through your lens. It's about making choices that reflect your true self and embracing what brings you happiness. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences on this topic. Pop them in the comments below. A gentle reminder that we are closing this Facebook by June 30th. We are moving to at Susan Lazar Hart Coaching, Creating Your Magical Life. And there'll be lots more goodies over there for you in a totally different way of playing with me, with you, in creating a life you love, in creating a congruent, magical life. I wonder what that could create. Hope to see you over there. In the meantime, live boldly, love greatly, and be that fearless leader you came here to be, because the world needs more of you and your special sauce, not less. Keep embracing your beautiful journey and stay tuned for more inspiration. Have an amazing day. Big love. Bye-bye.